Critical EDH. We're critically delicious. Add Lucky Charms accent in post. I'm Eric. I'm here with...
I still don't know how you're going to add an accent in post.
Me either. I have such confidence in Logan's technological ability. I truly believe in miracles. Dude, but we'll let the people know, who are you? Where should they go to buy your stuff? Like, what's going on with you right now before we hop into some questions?
What's going on? Goldsabertooth. Good to see you guys. Play CDH. And I think it's safe to say, I feel like the artist laureate of CDH. I create lots of artwork for the format, kind of give form and voice to a lot of archetypes and commander groups, Discord groups, affinity groups, and create cool, mostly playmats. I really love making cool playmats for different commanders and different archetypes. And yeah, I'd like just try to make people happy with my art. It's like a real...
Among other things, you also recently took top 4 at Heisenberg.
No, top 16. I didn't make top
16.
I finished Swiss second, but I didn't get there.
Oh man, yeah. I also
you top 16.
I did. I top 16.
Congratulations.
I think I was the first pod that finished though.
I played in a 4.5 hour game.
Oh my word!
I cast Emerald Cool twice and still didn't get there. I killed one person. I thought I actually had a cool window where I took the Emerald Cool, mind slavered the blue farm player. And everyone fired off silences, at the upkeep, and I fired off a silence too, and then it resolved, and I was like, okay. But the card I had drawn was a Tainted Pact, and I was like, well, let it rip. So I Tainted Pact the whole deck to just find a flash enabler, but apparently it's not a flash meta. There was no Valley Floodcaller in the deck. So I just accidentally straight up yeeted the blue farm player. There were no cards. I know.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah, it was Brayden, right?
Yeah. I even thought there was an intuition. I was like, I think I can wiggle something out here, I can intuition into something. But because everyone had 1 rings, I couldn't even target anyone with an intuition.
Oh man.
It was so sloppy. It wasn't a sloppy game. It was just a grueling game. I think people were playing pretty tight, but a lot to learn. I gotta lock in. I gotta be a little meaner. I think I'm too nice. Very good. I try my best, but I can do better.
How do you make the decision between we're just here playing Magic, it's just a game, we're just competing, versus that kind of other side of
I don't think there's a hard and fast. Yeah, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think you have to find a way to do it for yourself. It's like what I was telling you yesterday, where it's when people are how do you come across trying to identify a threat at the table by not acting like you're targeting someone or not acting like you're over yapping. I think it's just you find your own voice, and part of Magic is it's a game of a CDH at least is a game of also complicated communication.
Oh, for
and
sure.
It's a proving grounds to be a better communicator.
Oh yeah.
So, having said that, I do think you could find your own way to gauge that, but I actually don't think now that I think about it, sometimes we feel being lax or taking stuff back is kindness. I think it's actually an apology for our own weakness in a way. And by that, I mean, I don't mean to be uncharitable or unkind, but sometimes the charitable or kind thing to do is to hold the people around you to a higher standard and uphold the integrity of the game. Letting someone take something back in Magic and in life is not, it's not charity. You're not being magnanimous or venerable. You might just be prolonging that person's emotional and spiritual growth as a person. You need to you need to allow them to make a mistake to learn from it. And don't sometimes when one of the greatest thefts you could perform on an individual is to do for them which they could rightly do for themselves.
Oh yeah.
And I think that you really should let people fall on their sword in a game of Magic. And I think Logan's brought it. I was when I'm playing games with when I'm playing games like low stakes games with my friends, like pickup games or LobbyCon or on my Discord, I usually just like keep weird hands and put myself in weird scenarios to stress test, but I don't like test like my fastidious or my hard side, which to me I think is an excuse for myself, because I think like I'm pretty good at like the being generous. I think I'm good at being a warm person. I don't think that's like wrong to say. I think people who know me think of me as like a kind person, but I need to stress test like my shrewd side, because I do think I let stuff slide in life. Like I definitely sometimes have let people take advantage of me, or I've been too much of a giver in certain relationships in my personal life, and I think that maybe sometimes what we make it an excuse for ourselves and say like, oh, yeah, like, you know, I wasn't being such a hard ass in the game because I'm a good person. It's like, no, you actually were like letting yourself down and that player. Like I was at a tournament in Milwaukee where a player like tapped his stuff to cast a Soul Ring and then went to tap his Cutzel. I was like, no, you can't cast Cutzel. You tapped that wrong. You tapped out of green. He had the mana to cast Cutzel and Soul Ring, but he didn't tap it right. And he cast Soul Ring first. And then the whole table's like, oh, he could just tap the UC for the Soul Ring, and then the Savannah and the Scrubland for that. And I said, and the Gemstone for that. And I said, no, he can't. I was like, that's not how he did it. And the whole table, the other two players are like, oh, that's not how it works. I'm like, and the guy's like really like kind of upset with me. And I called the judge, and the judge like, yeah, no, you don't have a Cutzel. I gave a Soul Ring, like. And there were, you know, and it went back and forth, and it got a little heated. And I said to him, honestly, I just said, like, I was like, you know, I've made those mistakes before, and they've cost me. But, like, I felt it, and feeling that discouragement and feeling that disappointment made me not make that mistake again. And hopefully I helped you in a way. You may not make that mistake in the future. And I think he was still kind of like, fuck you, dude. Like, he's like, fuck you, like, shut up.
Like, of course you can say that. You have a Soul Ring and a Cutzel, I only have one.
You pedantic wag. But like, no, like, he's like, fuck you. But you know what I mean. Like,
I do know what you mean.
It's true. Like, I was in a game, and one person I think is really good about that is like Evan.
Yeah.
I think Evan, you know, Waffle's really good at being like venerable and shrewd. I think Evan, I think like the almost uncharitable way to look at that is like you're venerable when it's beneficial and shrewd when it's beneficial. But maybe that's the way I should be. And I think that's actually not like an indictment against you. I think it's like a kudos, like you're, yeah. And I think like we were talking in a Magic game, and I just got on Marnius, and he looks like a human. And I put a camera on human. I know human's in my hand. I think I like exiled my Grand Abolisher to like Chrome Mox or something. And I was like, cavern on human, and went to cast Marnius. And they're like, no. And they counted. I was like, no. I was like, cavern. They're like, no, he's an Astartes warrior. I was like, what? I'm like, I had no idea. And they didn't let me take it back, call the judge. And I'm just like, you understand? I'm like, there's no humans in my hand. There's no way I was casting human, and they're just like, they wouldn't let me take it back. But I'm kind of glad, because now I'm just always like, cavern on warrior, you know, like I don't forget, you know. And I think that like that is what the brain is. The brain, you know, in a more deformed manifestation, the brain can like become like a worrying tool. But we think of worrying as a negative thing, but worrying, the brain is a problem-solving tool, so it will focus on problems to help solve them. And I think that like right now I'm disappointed, and I started the tournament 4-0. I'm disappointed at not making the finals, and I feel like I petered off at the end. I finished 4-3 after starting 4-0. It's disappointing for me, but I don't want to dwell on it, but I also don't want to pretend like, oh well, I'll get him next time.
No biggie.
Right. I want to like. I think it's like good to like give yourself a time to feel discouragement and disappointment. Use it as motivation and learn from it, because I do think that like glossing over our discouragement, disappointment, pain, suffering, what have you, you need to go through grief. You need to go through disappointment. The only way past it is through it. You can't just be like, oh, you can't like, I mean, I know I've done it before, being like, I'm fine, and disassociate,
Yeah.
be like, oh, I don't mind, but like,
I mean, we'll say things to ourselves like, oh, it's not that big a deal, or like, you know, like, oh, it was bound to happen anyways. I was fourth seed, I had to mulligan super low, like, didn't really even have that much of a chance. But like, when you're in the game, right before your Marnius gets countered, in your like heart of hearts, you have that thought, I think I've got this.
Yeah.
I see my window, and then it just slams shuts in front of you for reasons you either weren't prepared or expected for, and that's like there's heartbreak in that moment.
Yeah, but yeah, let go of the things that weren't in your control and tighten up the things that were. Like for example, I made 2 critical errors at the end of the game. I believed my Chromox could tap for colorless mana because I had a colorless legendary. Because I just thought like it tapped for creature or planeswalker. Monksaber, when I said color. Monksaber taps for creature or planeswalker of their colors, but it can't tap for colorless. I didn't know that. I just truly didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where like colorless isn't a color.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's never come up. It's not like a common thing where you have a Mox Amber and an Emrakul out. You know, you're not usually playing Max Amber for your Emrakul.
Come on, it's every day, bro.
It doesn't come up. The other thing I was thinking too is like it's like yeah, it just doesn't come up.
You're really gonna tell me that's the
Look,
first time?
I've been in games where like people have like exiled many games where I think people have like exiled like a Phyrexian Metamorph to a Chromox for blue, and I'm like, no, it says non-artifact. I'm not mistaken. I think Chromox is not, and I'm like, no, it's non-artifact.
No,
and
I've tried doing that, and then people correctly like,
yeah, because I think I got caught doing it once, and someone's like, you can't do that. And then whenever I see it, I'm always like, you can't do that. And it's like not like you can't do that, but like you just that doesn't work the way you think it does. But again, it's also like not in your best interest to. See, I don't know where the line is. I mean, the other players. Isn't you don't want to point out people's mistakes if it's invitations to you, but like unless it's a GRV. But I attempted to tap it, but it got caught. But I didn't like. I got caught. I didn't realize it didn't work like that. Maybe chat caught it or something. And then I also, the turn had been so long, and it may be like 45 minutes to an hour before it got back to my turn, that I forgot that Waffle had ring protection when I tried to target him with the Emrakul. It had been so long.
Yeah.
He had a One Ring and a copy of a One Ring. So he had a ring on 4, but he had cast a One Ring and let it die to Red Jewel for protection. And I just forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and that's just a hard thing. So I just need to be better at, like, keeping track of stuff. And I think, like, I actually think I'm going to start taking notes in a game, common notes. I think you could angle shoot in a way and just like keep the notes out that you think the table should know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just write notes out. Like I was in a game in Swiss where somebody kept trying to point out how many cards a certain like value engine some player was using, but really downplaying how many they were drawing. And I was left like a little tally being like, your One Ring has drawn 5, your Aristic has drawn 3, but these 2 Archivist of Ogmas have drawn 12. And your Timna Crom has drawn 27. Like I would like to show that. I think just like, I don't know, there's no rule about it yet. I'm going to do it until there's a rule against it. I'm just going to start doing it now because I think it's a good way to be. This has come up, I think many people brought up this weekend. They're like, how do you communicate to the table without being perceived as overbearing or bullying or trying to be like, he's the threat, she's the threat, this is the problem. They've tutored twice, They
have like 10 cards and I kind of just don't like them.
I think there's good things you can politely say, to like, how many cards do you have in your hand? When you feel like somebody's like drawing a lot off one of their engines, just politely ask. Like, they'll tell you. You know what I mean? And I'll just play that. That's one way. But I think like pointing out stuff in like a matter of fact way instead of like editorializing it, I think is a good way. Like, or contextualizing it. And that's one thing Ian said that was really good to help threat assessment. Like he said he was in a pod against Rockdrass, and they had like somebody had like a cradle and a growing rights and like an untapper, and they're like, I've seen their hand. Their hand's kind of trash. And then Ian's like, you should also know that like that 48 mana is that's 12 Kinnan activations. I mean 12 Thrashers activations. And they're like, oh. And he's like, yes, that. that's a lot. Like, do what you will with that. Like, ask to see all the Thrasios activations in addition to the hand. But like, that's a big tongue in cheek. But do you get what I mean?
No, absolutely, yeah. Because you have all these, we could consider them almost like hidden variables. That allow people to show you all the access to the tangible resources they have. Yeah. If I tap my Mana Vault, I get 3 mana. If I tap my Cradle, I get 4 mana. I have 2 cards in hand. Yeah. But then you have these things where, you combine 2 or 3 of those together, and they have the opportunity, especially in Rock Thrash, to transform it into like 10 cards.
Yeah, and I think that just understanding how a deck, like anything, like understanding how a deck works is so important. Like getting a diverse play group and just understanding how decks work, because like Kinnan, Rogthras, Magda, Sisay are kind of classic examples, Magda and Sisay at least, of where like the advantage is not in the hand. The advantage is like it has like a different access of advantage.
For sure, yeah. I was actually in a game against a Zerda player.
I played a Zerda player too. Round one.
They were
they top 16.
They were such a good player.
Yeah.
Really, really good politiker, which included this moment where one of their pieces was going to get removed while they had access to a tutor, and so they were telling the table, well, I mean, what is it that you're afraid that I'm going to tutor for? I think that's a common question that people ask. Yeah. It's like, well, what are you afraid that I'm going to get? I'll just get something different. And then, I was just talking with them. Like, the whole point of your deck is that we don't understand it enough to take you off a combo piece with that question. I understand that you're trying to like give us something in order to like get something, but the reality situation is we just simply don't have the capacity to compute what it is that you're giving us.
I agree, but I know what you're saying, and I think that like, and this came up with our friend Jay, and I think it comes up to the fact that like, if you can use your spell as a deterrent, your spell is more valuable. So like, what's more powerful than a mental misstep on an Enlightened Tutor is the mental misstep that you can intimidate an Enlightened Tutor with than casting it, because then it stopped or it paused the Enlightened Tutor, and you get to keep the mental misstep. So it's actually, the onus is on you as the players to like, the best thing you can do is like either get them to not cast it into your counterspell, or ask better questions to just be like, I will let you get like a mana rock with your Enlightened Tutor, and then or be really specific, be like a non-combo piece one. Like, I don't want you to get Basalt, but if you get like, if you just want to grab a Soul Ring, or if you need to get like a Mox Opal to be online, I'm fine with that. But if you're trying to combo right now, I'm not. And then it's up to you. And if they agree to that, then good, you did your job. And if they lie to you, they lied to you. But if they don't agree to it and you don't counter it, they called your bluff. If they say, I can't agree to that deal, and they're like, well, I'm going to counter it, and they're like, well, I don't agree to that deal, and they're like, Enlightened Tutor, and you're like, pass, and then you're like, and then they get Basalt, and you're like, you liar, like that's on you. They called your bluff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they won't commit to the deal, call their bluff.
Yeah, no, that's.
And I think I made that mistake in my final game where I'm like, I shouldn't have gotten priority bullied. I was like, if someone's putting a win on the stack, like I'm like, you know what, like, you're after me, and like, I know you have way more cards than me. You won't show me your hand. I've shown you my hand. Like, yeah, then we're just both so crazy and we're willing to die. But like, I need to be willing to die right now, because I'm not gonna win if if I just like, I'm so quick to jump in the grave. It is a game of chicken sometimes too.
For sure. Which can feel really bad sometimes. Because you can end up on the wrong side of it, but both ways. Earlier in the week, I was in a for fun game, but we were practicing for a tournament, so like we're talking about draws in a way that like I don't think you normally would in a game of casual Magic. But someone was saying it was kind of like I only cast Assance if we agree to a draw situation. And I thought they were bluffing, so I was like, I'm going to go for one on my turn. And they're like, okay, I will cast odds, and we just lose. And then I had this moment, I was like, how could this happen to me? I was so sure I like read the table correctly. But once you're like 2 or 3 hours into a game where you've been making like judgment calls, it can be hard to realize that you've run out or you've reached the extent of your ability to like critically analyze like what it is that like your opponents are thinking, and when you mistake a mind read, right? You know, you think you know what's going on in their head, but you get it wrong. That feels really, really, really bad.
Well, I think you need to stress test that too, because like it's convenient to say like, oh, a game's in a draw. Swiss games in a draw. Top 16s don't. I've been in 2, 3, 4 major tournaments that I can think of in the last couple months where I've had 4+ hour top 16 games.
Yeah.
Because that's like, for example, people talk about meta decks and 60 card that like there's certain decks that like are objectively a very powerful deck. Like I feel like the Omnath, Teferi, Uro piles of the money piles of Modern were probably the best deck. But the truth is, like in Praxis, with a timer, they couldn't win in time. But given unlimited time, of course they win. Of course they're going to keep solituding you. Of course they're going to ley line binding you. Of course they're going to go up the beanstalk and cast their thing. That kind of deck that keeps morphing. The Omnath, the Sans Black deck that keeps like this like hideous pile of like Teferi and Renin 6 and Fury, like that deck, right? But that kind of plays out. That's essentially what we're in right now. We're in a mid-range sludge. Like you've got to stress test that because once you've got your chops, learn how to win in Swiss and let the body know what it feels like to win. Get a muscle memory of winning. Win Swiss, and then you need to stress test top 16 and know what it feels like to win an event. Logan knows what it feels like to win a major event. I knows what it feels like to major event. That is a level up for me. So when I'm in those games, in that game I lost, I really felt like I was going to win. Even if people on stream thought I was going to lose it or someone else played, I was like, well, joke's on you because I thought I was going to win. I was like, well, I guess I was the only one not in it.
Don't know what to tell you.
I thought I was going to win. I really did. I was playing to win. And like I think that like you have to be. Because you don't want to be in those positions being like clawing for your life and feeling like you're going to lose. So all I mean to say is you do need to stress test those things because the Omnath pile, right? Money pile, cool deck. But like in Pioneer and in Modern, like, and even like the Uro, the Bosch and O'Brien Koval decks of Legacy, like, I put this on Do Not Disturb, sorry about that. They do not play well. They don't close in like in like a MTGO clock or in a 60 card tournament. Like they just don't, like when you were at those tournaments, like when RCQ season, every one of those decks went to a draw and none of them made top 8. Even though that was the best deck. But if they could make it to top 8, they'd cook because it's untimed. Do you get what I'm saying? Like once you go, so you need to stress test both. That's my advice to the people at home. Is like when we were playing last night, these games were getting sludgy with like Jay and getting sludgy with like Jason, but like I wanted it to get muddy and go forever. Like we were in a game where like this guy, really nice guy from Utah, like had like he had like stolen a consecrated Sphinx. We both had smothering tides. I had a high fade trickster and a Marnius out, and there was Jay had a Nezahal, and there was like a fish, and then like everyone's drawing everything, and then I managed to like steal the con Sphinx. So every draw is like triggering more draws, which are triggering treasures, which are drawing off the Marnius, and it was like this crazy game, and like so many points. People are like, we could just scoop, we could just call it. I'm like, no, like we need to like stress test this. And even though Jason's like dying, you're like, his like sinuses and his eyes are all watering, and like, and, like poor Jay is like falling asleep, and like I can't even like see behind his mask if he's awake, and like we're like playing the game, but like we're still putting like the Nezahal trigger on the stack, and I'm still being like, all right, active player, not active player. I have a draw. You have a concentrated trick. Do you want to draw for those?
Absolutely.
You're passing on those. Okay, you are drawing for those. I will smothering tithe. You're not paying. I will make a treasure. Marnius trigger. I will draw. You have a consecrated, and he's like, I just give up. You know, like this, like. But like, I think that was good for me to like play into the
absolutely
the pit. You know what I mean?
Well, because you're
going to have to play into the pit if you want to win.
You are practicing games in a way that are showcasing where you're expecting to place in a tournament. And if in your practice games draws are always on the table, whether or not you have admitted to yourself on some level you're expecting to not make top cut.
I don't want to draw. I mean, drawing is like necessary part of like Swiss, but I don't play to draw. I didn't. Yeah, and I will say too, it's like, but I also play to win. I also like. I ran 2 Raw Dog Thoracle consults out early game today, just because I had like somebody cast like I don't know, like a value engine in the game or something like some other type, and the other player was like, I have literally nothing for this. And the other player's like, all I have is lands, and I'm just like. I was like, Thoracle console. I was like,
say less.
Say less. I was like, yeah.
What are you looking forward to coming up, and what do you predict will be unbanned?
To make sure our viewers heard the question, Logan asked the couch, what are you looking forward to in the near future, and what are you expecting to be unbanned?
I'm looking forward to going home and see my wife and my cat.
Nice.
Chib, the sweetest cat, and Allie, Mrs. Sabertooth, love of my life. Going home to them. I really enjoyed being in the Southwest, though. I missed being out in New Mexico, Arizona way, and I get to eat some good green chili burritos and ube ice cream. Shout out to the ube and pandan ice cream at Sawmill Market. I love it. Looking forward to my tournament this Friday. We're going to be playing at Serenity Hobbies. We're doing Goldsabertooth presents New York CDH mid-range heaven. Not mid-range hell, dude. It's mid-range heaven. You got to embrace it. It's mid-range hell, kind of pejorative. Like, make it your heaven. Like, that's what I was like. Today, I was like, you know what? If I think the Flash and Ember should be banned, maybe I should play them. If you think a card should be banned, play it. That's a good Brian Kovalism. He's like, you're going to bitch about Entomb? Play Entomb in Legacy.
Yeah.
You little putts, you know. I'm like, I'm just like flash maxing now. Instead of being like, oh, I hate the flash ban. I'm like, no, I mean, I gotta learn to play it. So I'm just putting the flash in, and they are cool.
Yeah.
And they give me weird windows I didn't have, even if it's muddy.
You're not gonna make the cards in the format worse by being annoyed at them, right? Like you can't just like via willpower be like, I just hate those cards so much.
Yeah.
And then they just mystically drop.
You gotta live in the meta you live in, and brew in the world that you have. And I will say, so I'm looking forward to the tournament. We got a Guy's Cradle on the line.
Nice.
And a bunch of duels. I got like some Scrubbies and Savannahs. Shout out to Tavern of Souls. I picked him up with my winnings from the tournament.
Nice.
So because I already was going to put my own on the line, so I picked up some more. And then I'm looking forward to May 3rd, there's Long Island. I did the playmat for it. It's really cool.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's like the Mystic Remora is like the Long Island landmass.
It looks so cool.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. And then I'm looking forward to Salt Lake City tournament. It's I think, is that a 10K? 10K. I'm looking forward to that. That one's gonna be sick because I'm doing playmat for that one.
Nice.
And it's like all included, which is cool. It's like it's like a little spendy, but like it includes like all the food, playmat from me, a playmat from like Thomas Baxa, I think.
Whoa.
And it's like tons of stuff. It's like shuttle from the airport, like catering the whole time.
Yeah.
2 days. There's a lot of stuff. So that seems sick. There's more stuff too. I can't remember what, but I want to go to that one. I am going to that one. And then Arizona at the end of the month, Gamers Guild.
Nice.
I just get to meet those guys at
they're so,
Gemin, and
yeah.
I'm so grateful to be going back to Arizona. So that's what I'm looking for. Arizona, and that one's for a foil cradle, foil Mox Diamond, Grid Monolith LED. It might even be like a foil grid monolith. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the pricing is awesome, and then they've showed some footage of the play space that
it's
people are
insane,
be, and it's so.
It's a
nice.
former Planet Fitness. It really is.
Really, that's what it used to be.
That's so Arizona though. If you know Arizona, it's just like. It's like things are like hermit crabs that move into like the carcasses of old big box stores. And you're like, I'm playing in a magic shop, but it kind of looks like a Circuit City. You're like, this was a Circuit City.
How'd you know?
Yeah. There's like just like a poster of a Johnny like over the thing that says like fax machines. You know, but sorry, I snorted.
Just printing out tokens.
But and then unbans.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's gonna be like everyone's like, I think Coalition Victory is going to be unbanned. Like, if it's like, it's not worth saying, like, who cares? Like, yeah, I'm sure the dumb, unpowerful cards will get unbanned. Sure. No one gives a shit. But, like, of cards of consequence.
Prime time?
Yeah, I think you see Primetime being unbanned because they said they're going to go to Game Changers. So I'm less worried. I'm less like not worried. What's the word? I think that we're putting too much emphasis on like, well, the card is pretty toxic for casual. I think they've already agreed to correct that by saying like, if a card is toxic to casual, it'll be on the Game Changers and it'll be on the watch list. So I think a lot of like toxic casual cards that won't make a big impact in CDH will probably become legal. A few of them. I don't know what those are, but I do think there's going to be, if the new RC wants to make a name for themselves, I'm sure they do, and they want to have an identity, there's going to be one flashy unban. I don't know what it is, but I'm positive they're going to do something for the click, something for to generate conversation. There's going to be one that people are going to go, "Are you kidding me?" Like I don't know what it is. Like think about like Splinter Twin was that for people. They wanted unban so much, no one plays it. They wanted it so bad. Yeah. But then you got an extremely powerful unban like Mox Opal. Like Mox Opal was a crazy unban.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, I definitely can see how, as it's kind of somewhat in its infancy, but also the new RC for Commander is kind of, I think, built off the model that they used in Pauper, which seems to have been really, really successful.
What's that?
I think that's just where Gavin's also from. And so having this kind of like committee of people in tandem with like WotC people.
Oh, Pauper,
Yeah. I think that like even if they unban something and it like makes the format an awful place for like 3 months, I completely agree with you, it won't. But
one
like,
card won't.
Even in this like hypothetical world where it does, they are like putting out that they are like capable of interacting with our format in meaningful ways as people who are like monitoring it and overseeing it.
Yeah,
and I think
agree.
that's like, especially this early on in them taking over the format, I think a really important thing for them to do. Because you're right, if they unban cards that don't matter, then it doesn't really feel like they unban anything. And people just say, well, oh, those were going to be unbanned by whoever took up the torch next. Whereas even if they take something that like, even if they unban the wrong big card, whatever that is, it still shows that like they're doing something and they're here to like find out what works.
They're going to unban Ancestral Recall, and people will play it for 1 month, and then they'll realize it sucks and they'll cut it. That's my hot take. Krark, there'll be a Krark renaissance. I don't know. I'm telling you, that's my hot take. Ancestral Recall. Jason will play it for 3 weeks in Blue Farm, and then be like, "This card is cope," and he'll cut it.
Do you think there's any cards that absolutely will not be unbanned ever?
Will not be. I don't think they'll unban Dockside ever.
You think Dockside's his days are done?
Yeah, no. I think they just like. I think that it's one of those cards that they're like, it's like there's like this like pugilist kind of like bratty attitude. We're like, we can't give in to the mob. People got mad when we did a bad thing, and now we can't give in to the mob. So they're not going to give you like. They might give like J-Lo back because it's a commander-centric card, but they're not going to give Crypt or Dockside back. There's 0.000. There will be no Dockside or Crypt in the format, which is a shame because it really hurt Breach strategies and it put us in a heavier mid-range place because there just isn't the looming threat of Turbo the way there used to be. There are Turbo decks, but they're really taken out at the knees.
And then one last question. I think Rog Thras kind of like really came out in a big way after Fishbowl. It had been around for a while, but I think Pigeon kind of managed to put the pieces together in a way
Sam Black
that inspired people. You think his style's bigger?
No,
it's hard to know being from Denver because everyone plays Pigeon, but I think you probably have a little bit more perspective than I would.
No, but I just think like I think Pigeon is an excellent player playing an excellent deck, but I think like the modern version of a Cradle maxing Rog Thras deck is Sam Black. Before the bans, it was a Dockside combo deck with Kitten. It played Cloudstone loops. It played. It was even playing that like Lily Splash Mentor at the very end. It was playing like Teamer, Sabertooth loops. It was playing all sorts of stuff with like Magda and Relic of Legends and bouncing with. It had like lines like that. It was more of like a Rog bounce deck. It was Rog bouncing with Dockside, create infinite mana, and use Thrasios as an outlet. And but I think like in its modern iteration, like you got to give credit where credit's due. It's Sam Black built it as a cradle deck.
That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Turbo cradle deck. A cradle-centric control deck.
I always appreciate getting to learn the like history of decks because I'm still relatively new to the format, and I want to make sure people get the credit they're due deserve.
Pigeon and like Lamora's cards are people that have like popularized the deck as of late. Yeah.
It definitely seems to have gotten like popular, beyond popular in the last month or so.
Incredibly popular.
And my expectation was that Heisenberg was going to either like people are going to add enough board wipes for it to just like disappear, or it kind of like cement its place somewhere near the top. After Heisenberg, where 2 Rock Thrashes made it to the top 4, where do you think Rock Thrash is positioned going into the next few big tournaments?
I don't think the deck's very good. I'm waiting for it to win a tournament. You can like sludge your way along, and be kind of parasitic and like a slow, it has like an inevitability and like kind of like what I was talking about with these money pile decks, but like it's gonna keep getting away with it. But I don't think it'll win a major tournament. I think it'll keep like having a high representation. I think a lot of people were playing it, so they're gonna be. There's going to be like a volumetric bias. Like there's a lot of it, so you'll see a lot of it. I'm not taking away from it, but I just think like it's a pretty greedy deck. It doesn't. I honestly don't think the way to punish the deck is with like board wipes. I think I love that. I don't think anyone's going to play board wipes. I think we've said it, people are greedy. The Rock Thrash deck itself is greedy. Like they're cut counterspells. Like I think the way you punish them is do what I did. Like I just like raw dogged a Thoracle Console on curve against a Rock Thrash deck and like a Kinnan deck, and they're just like, yeah, no, I haven't done anything. they've cut a lot of counterspells. They
really have, yeah.
They want to just like cradle max and go into the late game, but if there's a threat of a turbo deck, until there's a threat of a turbo deck, you're gonna have a bunch of like sluggish Rock Thrash decks slopping it up. You tell what I think about this deck. I hate Rock Thrash. If it's not clear, sorry guys, I fucking hate that deck.
We love getting the chance to sit down.
My negative. Leave it on a negative note. I hate that deck. I'm smoking a Rock Thrash pack. I'll kill it in the next tournament. I'll never lose to it again. I beat it in this tournament. I didn't lose to it in this tournament.
I definitely lost to it, so I'll have to make sure that the next deck I play has
just raw dog Thordle. Turn 2, raw dog it. No backup, nothing. I'm like, these guys don't play counterspells. I'm not playing counterspells. I'm just turbo.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Hopefully you have a good flight back.
Thanks, man.
Say hi to your cats for us.
Thanks for listen. Just shout out to the Critical EDH crew. Thanks for hosting me and hanging with me. Just give me a place to chill, and I really feel like I made some true friends this weekend. And I'm utterly impressed with like the Denver CDH meta. I'm utterly impressed. It's some of the best players I've met.
We're so spoiled.
Dude, it's like everyone likes to glaze their own like locals, but this is sincere. Like this is like really. I think the best CDH players right now are in Colorado. They're just it. There's some good players in the East Coast, and there's some really good players in like Milwaukee, Chicago area, because you got to have a good shop. A good shop engenders a good scene. And I don't know what you guys got in the water there, but Denver has Magic players. I really think so. Yeah.
We'll have to keep our eye out for the next big tournament, and we'll get you out there.
See you there.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you guys there at the very least later. Have a good one, guys.
Take care.